Hey, what's up, Roxstars? It's Rox coming to you today with the review and the recap of the Wendy Williams movie that aired on Lifetime last night. Did you watch it? If you did, chances are you had a good ass time, you guys, because it was a very entertaining night, a very entertaining 2 hours. Actually, it was entertaining 4 hours if we counted the documentary. And I was really just kind of bummed that they didn't just make the movie a mini-series. I've told you guys before that you know, a lot of times in these biopics that they do of these celebrities, the reason why they kind of fall flat is because we don't get, like, it rushes through everything. Like, we kind of have an idea of the things, the events that happen in these celebrities' lives, but now we want to see it. Like, if you're going to talk about it, then talk about the shit, okay? So the rushing through of the story, even though it still didn't feel like I was, you know, like turning around and it was this and it all made sense, but it honestly could have been, if they would have really invested the money, and especially since they did the documentary afterwards, even though I feel like the documentary probably didn't cost much, okay, because it really honestly was just Wendy telling her story, and it was just her story about her and Kevin. So you know, I was like, yeah, if you guys would have just gave him 2 more hours, maybe even 4 more hours, we could have got a 3-part little mini series or something. We would have all been there for it. Maybe not sure on the first episode. By that second episode, we would have been pulled in. But beggars can't be choosers. We did fine with it. I think they did a great job. And you know, Lifetime, we don't never know how they're gonna come. If they're gonna come correct, if they're gonna come ill. Okay, when we talk ill, we talk about the Aaliyah movie, which was a fucking disaster. I don't know anybody that enjoyed that movie. It was bad. How are you doing a movie about a singer and you don't have her music? Okay, and I think really a lot of the problem was that her family wasn't involved. You know, I'm starting to realize that if you don't have the full cooperation of people who are really emotionally attached to the story, then the shit don't really make sense. Okay, the music was bad. They had somebody else singing. It didn't even really sound like Aaliyah. It was just really wrong. All right, but they did get it right with the Clark sisters movie. When I think about that movie, they did have the music. They did have the involvement of the family, and so you know, you can kind of see. So we know that Wendy Williams was the executive producer for this movie, and I think that her involvement, her attachment to the story, and making sure that certain things was right, you know, it came through. You could tell. So I was pleased. I was like, because I wasn't sure, you guys. We got on Twitter last night, and I was like, let's see what kind of shit we shoveling tonight. Okay, this can go either really, really good or really, really bad. And it went good. Okay, so yeah, let's get to the review, shall we? All right, you guys. So when the show first started, immediately I said to myself, damn, I wish that they would have had Wendy Williams narrate this. That would have really just set it over the top, because Wendy Williams has such an iconic voice, that New Jersey accent, which is interesting because her brother, when they showed him on the documentary, like, he doesn't have such a strong ass accent, but Wendy definitely, I mean, she is that voice. So I just feel like if we would have really had her narrate, since it was such a big part of the movie, that if we would have had her narration, then that really would have just, you know, but I guess maybe they was feeling like it was going to be too different from the girl who was playing Wendy, because she didn't really have her accent. Every now and then she would get it, but it wasn't constant. Now, she did a good job as Wendy. I feel like she had her mannerisms down. She had her expressions down. And I feel like she kind of did embody the young Wendy. You guys, we don't remember the young Wendy. We know the Wendy of today. But when we see pictures and when we think about all of the old interviews and the old, you know, radio footage and all of that, I think that she did good with this Wendy. So yeah, I was cool with her. What's her name, you guys? Somebody told me that what is she on? Like, I feel like I've seen her before. I don't even know what her name is. I should have found out what it is. Yeah, you guys. So anyway, the story starts with her, you know, growing up in New Jersey, her being the, you know, fluffy kid, her parents really being on her about her weight and how that kind of gave her anxiety and stress like all of her childhood days. And I just kept thinking about how, like, see, the parents of back in the 70s ain't the parents of like today. Like, the parents of today are a little bit more aware of the things that you say that can fuck up your kids. Back in the 70s, they didn't know. People wasn't going to psychologists and, you know, going to therapists and counselors and shit and really figuring it out. They was just say whatever they wanted to say. So So I'm sure her parents didn't mean any harm, but that's just where they were. So, you know, that was her growing up, just the stress of, you know, trying to please her parents. They weighed her all the time. She was, you know, a bedwetter. I mean, she just kind of went through it. But that probably was a little bit more like a lot of kids during that time. That's my time. So, you know, a lot of kids went through that type of pressure from their parents. But Wendy always had like a big personality, so she said that she always knew that she wanted to be something. She was going to show her family, she was going to show the world, basically, you know, that she was going to be it. She had a fascination for the tabloids, she had a fascination for the celebrities and the gossip. You know, the National Enquirer was all that. I mean, I had stayed in the National Enquirer. That was everything back in the day. I mean, just the scandal of it all. Not many people were doing that. National Enquirer was really the only ones. So all of that made an impact on her. She said by the time she went to college, she had her own radio show. And then she decided that she wanted to make that a career. She said she landed in DC. Okay, she worked for Kathy Hughes, the Kathy Hughes. Okay, so she was doing that. She was doing coke. She started doing coke. She said it was not really a big deal, and because it suppressed her appetite and it just made her be able to be up and be like the personality that she wanted to be. Like, it just kind of kept her going. And like I said, it kept her weight down. So, you know, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Wendy, you know, starting off, she was green. She had an interview with like some big-time R&B or rapper. I'm not sure who he was. She never said, even in the documentary, she's like, you want me to say who it was? I was like, yes, girl, say who it is. Okay. She never said who it was. She said she was going to let him live because he was a one-hit wonder, and, you know, she's not even concerned about that any longer. But, you know, the guy that she ended up interviewing, they were going to go to a party. He was like, you know, fell for the okie doke. She fell for the okie doke, and he wanted to go back to his hotel to change before they went there. And when she went to the hotel, you know, the nigga came out the bathroom and he ain't had no fucking clothes. I said, this nigga done pulled the Apple Valley. Y'all remember that story, don't you? Remember that story I told you guys about? I almost said his name, child. Him coming out the bathroom with no clothes. Okay, well, this guy pulled the same thing, and it kind of reminded me, like, damn, Roxanne, you really could have got your ass raped that night. I was far, far, far away. I didn't have a car, everything. It was a mess. But anyway, didn't turn out so well for Wendy. She ended up getting raped by this guy, you know. And of course, he threw her to the side like yesterday's news, told her to let herself out, you know, and of course that would be traumatizing for anybody. I thank God for taking care of fools and babies, child. I'm telling you. So even though she ain't tell us who that guy was, that she said that was kind of the last time that she was gonna feel like that, like she was feeling dismissed or silenced. After all of that happened, she said she was worried she had AIDS. You know, she kept on taking the test over and over. I think she said she did it 4 times and she was negative each time. So she was like, okay, I'm good. Okay. Now she could set her sights on being in New York. She wanted to be a DJ there. Okay. So she's, you know, living her life. She's doing her drugs. She said it was starting to get to be a heavier habit, partying her ass off, but she always made it to work. Okay. Definitely had that work ethic in her. But eventually she got a second job in New York. So during the week, she was doing her job in DC, and then she traveled to New York on the weekends, and she had like a nighttime job, nighttime DJing gig out there. But they wouldn't contract her, so she never quit her DC job. She just went back and forth between the two. One thing that did strike me, though, is just never seems like Wendy has had any friends. And of course, I know why now, you know, is because when you talk about everybody, it is really hard for her to really sustain any relationship. She burned a lot of bridges and people don't see it for her anymore. But even back then, it didn't seem like, you know, even though it could have just been the movie, but it didn't seem like she really had any for real homegirls. We never saw any of those type of scenes where she was just hanging with her girls or anything like that. Wendy was focused, laser focused on her career and climbing that ladder. So anyway, while she's climbing the ladder, they finally do hire her in New York. All right, Kathy Hughes is pissed at her for you know, saying that she was hired in New York, so they fired her. So now she's just exclusively in New York and, you know, doing her thing out there. But then she ends up getting fired again, Hot 103.5, okay? Told her to go get married and have some babies. But, you know, she's all about the hustle. She ain't ready to get married, and she definitely ain't ready to have no babies, okay? So, yeah, she's still got her eyes set on becoming, you know, the Wendy Williams. So, you know, she has an idol that's in radio, Carol Ford. She goes to where Carol Ford works. She's just trying to get her foot in the door any way that she can. She's in the lobby of the radio station for like 2 weeks. And finally, the program director was just like, okay, come on back. Okay, we're going to go in and give you a chance. You've been sitting up here for all these 2 weeks. And besides, Carol Ford is off anyway. So you can kind of fill in for her. And she was just like, oh, you going to let me fill in? And he was like, yes. Okay. Oh, shit. Well, honey, say less. Because Wendy is going to take every opportunity, right? So she gets in there, she's doing her show, you know, she's adding her Wendiness, which is that she's going to, you know, give the gossip, dish the gossip. Nobody was doing that out there in New York. Nobody was doing that really anywhere, okay? Those, you know, black music industry, they were pretty much protected from shock jock type news because, you know, I guess they didn't think that people wanted to know, but Wendy knew that people wanted to know. If she wanted to know, then chances are everybody else would like to know too. So she'd be in there gossiping, and, you know, the program director would come in there and be like, no, you cannot do that, okay? And she was like, why? Like, you know, they got lives too, and people want to know, like, why can't we do it? And then it was like a light bulb went off in the program director's head. He was just like, oh shit, you know what? You might be on to something. So he then hired her on the spot. And gave her a spot on a radio show with 2 other guys. I can't remember their names right now, but her segment was called Dish the Dirt, okay? And that was when she would come on, which is very popular today. And really, when I think about it, when I think of Top of the Blogs, and when I think about all of the different, you know, shows, even on TV or on YouTube or wherever, where people are talking about pop culture, talking about, you know, gossiping about the black entertainment industry or just entertainment industry in general, it might be because Wendy had paved that way. She definitely opened doors, definitely was a game changer. So Wendy deserves her flowers for that, okay? So yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, she's on the show and she's dishing the dirt, and, you know, everybody kind of like don't want to hear it but want to hear it, you know, kind of just like, ooh, Wendy. And she'll give you that same reaction to this day, even though she's toned it down quite a bit. Now, the funny thing about the movie is they glossed over a lot of the things that we know that got Wendy in trouble, a lot of the things that got Wendy hated. They did not talk about the Puffy situation. I mean, they did say that Puffy was always kind of like a thorn in her side because of the shit that she would say. They mentioned her talking about him not paying total. But, of course, they did not mention the gossip that got Wendy really put on the map is when she was saying that Puffy was gay and he was giving Andre Harrell a blowjob, you know, in his office. Okay, they left that out the movie. They didn't really have to put that in. We already know. Okay, but they kind of glossed over it. They glossed over the Whitney Houston interview, which you guys know is a fucking classic. When I tell you that Wendy was read for filth, honey, for filth. Like they said in the documentary, nobody really knew that side of Nippy. Okay, ain't nobody knew that side. It was always a legend. People would talk about it, but honey, we finally got it that day. That Wendy said that interview went on for 28 minutes. She recorded the whole thing because I guess it wasn't live. Well, that Wendy said, honey, you don't know me, you don't sleep with me, you don't talk to me, you're not my friend, okay? But you talk about me every fucking single day. All right, when Wendy asked her was she on drugs then, I was just like, oh. But honey, Whitney was not having it, not that day and any other day, I guess, if you ask people that knew her. But yeah, so they glossed over that interview. They did mention Whitney, mentioned Mariah, didn't even talk about Judge Mathis, who also read her down back and forth. Y'all remember talking about her wigs and shit. But those are those type of confrontations and the things that Wendy used to go through with those celebrities is really what made us know Wendy to be Wendy. But like I said, also isolated her because nobody wanted to be putting up with that shit. But she said, she was like, what could they do? I was the #1 show. Like, if they wanted to promote their music and shit, they had to come to me. Okay, so people, I guess, just grinned and bared it, but was probably stressed as fuck because they had no idea exactly what she was going to say. What also was surprising was that she dated Eric B. Okay, not that it really made any difference in her life, but it was like we knew Eric B. We know Eric B. and Rakim, so it was just interesting to see that these two was a little couple, you know. And of course, he was like any other nigga, just using her, you know, fucking on her, taking advantage of her. She renting him cars and shit because he ain't had one. You know, he had to borrow hers and almost made her late for work. So yeah, she rented him a car and the nigga didn't return it. Like, who does that? You know, you are Eric B. Like, you still out here playing nigga games, you know. But she got pregnant by him. She ended up getting an abortion. Of course, she's not trying to have a baby with Eric B. But then we start to see how she ended up with Kevin. You know, she's at a club. In the documentary, they say that, you know, she had a club night that she would host with some people from the radio scene, and they would have like big ass nights when it would be like rappers and music artists and shit that would come there, and it was like a big deal. Everybody wanted to go there. So I'm assuming that this club was where she ended up meeting Kevin. He sent his phone number over to her on a matchbook. I was like, child, before we had cell phones. Oh my God, you guys, memories. So he's sitting over there, you know, just calm, cool, collected. I was like, oh girl, I kind of see how you could have fell for that one. Oh child. She skipped over her first marriage. She said it wasn't even important, even though, wouldn't you guys have wanted to at least knew a little bit about it? She said that they was only married for 5 months or something like that. But damn, I was just like, we can't get a picture, you know, we can't get an idea. Okay, old boy ain't never surfaced. Like, we don't know nothing about that first night. I didn't even know she had been married before. She ends up back at Hot 97. She finally reaches out to Kevin, you know, tells him to come, you know, to her job when she gets off. He shows up there, you know, they have a red cup night in the Forerunner, you know, and she said by the time they made it past a couple of lights, she knew that she really, really liked him. You know, it was just something about that whole thug mentality. You know, she was like, something about being with a thug, you know, that opens up to you. All right, you know that they got their walls up for everything, always on alert, you know, looking around, making sure the scene is safe. But when they sit down and they tell you their hopes and their dreams and they trust you enough, like that does something to women. It definitely did something to Wendy. And all of a sudden he was her boyfriend. You know, he made her feel safe. Like, she knew that he would protect her. And she needed that. Like I said, she didn't seem like she really had any friends, you know, or really that anybody was in her corner. So Kevin was definitely that person for her, okay? And you can tell that they built that bond that was just so like me and you against the world kind of thing. So that's why in the documentary, when I was watching it last night, I was like, damn, she ain't over him. Like, you know, she definitely is not over him. And not, then I thought about it. People kept on saying, no, Roxanne, this was right after everything happened. You know, that documentary. She's in a much better space right now. She definitely was pissed, okay, and was really working through her emotions in that documentary. So yeah, I do think that she's over him. All right. But you could tell from the way that she portrayed him in the movie that she still has love for him, for real. Okay. Because she could have made him look way worse. All right. Because Kevin was out there wilding and doing what the fuck he wanted to do. And, she did not seem to put that out there, but she made it clear how the sex was good, how, you know, she just loved him. That was her dude. Like, he was her one, you know, and he just loved her back fully and took care of her and catered to her. And, you know, I was like, damn, I wonder what him and Sharina was doing last night. Like, that shit would have been uncomfortable to watch. Like, you know, when you are Sharina, if you are Sharina Hudson and you are watching that, like, you always know somewhere in your mind that you was kind of second fiddle to Wendy Williams. Yeah, you got the man, but really, was that the prize? You know, you guys are still spending her money, like she said, getting in her cars. Shit that she paid for is what is taking care of you and your family right now. And that, like, I don't know, like something in my ego and just me knowing that would give me problems, you know, if I was Sharina. But anyway, Wendy and Kevin, they a team. She tells him she's gonna get lipo, she's gonna get big boobs because, you know, she's always had weight issues and she's always been self-conscious about things, and she just wants to make a statement. And Kevin, you know, didn't say no. What could he say? She was like, if he would have said no, he would have been out the fucking door, because she already knew she was doing it. He supported her. He went with her to her appointment. She got him these big ass boobs. Why in the movie did it look like she had like 2 t-shirts like up underneath her shirt? I was like, they all lumpy and shit. You know, she insisted on wearing them little body conscious wrap dresses and everything. I mean, it was the first thing you saw. But back in the day, you guys, Wendy's body was, oh my gosh. I mean, she really looked nice. Of course, she's never had hips. And back then they wasn't really doing hips. Now they adding hips and shit, and even that's fucked up and wrong unless you really have, go to the right person. But I remember seeing pictures. I remember seeing pictures of her when she was at the pool and everything, and she looked great. Like her stomach was super flat, and she had these long ass legs, and her boobs, like everything. So I was like, okay, Wendy, yes, Wendy definitely had it going on back then. So she's feeling herself. She's getting more and more popular on her show. She's dropping all of this this gossip and talking about people. Of course, again, Puffy is all in it. Total. It was a scene when Total tried to come up there and beat her ass, because she had talked about them and Puffy. And right when she was coming out of the radio station, then Kevin just pulled up like a knight in shining armor. Like, baby, you all right? Came running up to her, made Total and them leave. People were scared of Kevin. She felt so rescued. And then he was like, let's get married. And they got engaged. And it was a big story. She said they wrote about it in Page 6. So her exposing all these people, again, gets her in trouble. She gets suspended. She ends up back in Philly. She got a top show out there. She ends up getting pregnant, and this is the beginning of a cycle of pregnancies that she just could not hold on to her baby. So she lost the first baby, had a miscarriage. After that, it seemed to bring her and Kevin closer. He was like, okay, we getting married. So they ended up going justice of the peace route, got married, but now they was a couple. She got pregnant 2 more times, made it to her 5th month of pregnancy both times. So she's showing, she says she's going to like radio events and all of that with her big belly, and then she has miscarriage. She has to birth the babies, stillborn. I mean, just more than most people would want to deal with. So Wendy definitely had been through it, and I think all of the tragedy that she and Kevin went through together even brought them even closer. That shit either breaks you up or brings you closer. It seems to bring them closer. So she gets pregnant another time, you guys, and this time she finds out that not only does she have thyroid issues, she has Graves' disease, she also has a weak cervix. So she was like, you mean to tell me after all this fucking time, that's what the problem is I just need to sit my ass down somewhere? And the doctor was just like, yeah. So then she goes back. She's Wendy Williams now, so she has the power. She tells the radio station that she's going to do her whole show from her home, okay, on bed rest. And so they say, okay. And they bring all of the equipment there for her to do her show there. Kevin is there. He hand and foot waiting on her, bringing her whatever she needs, And she successfully delivers Lil Kev. Now, this is when the shit really gets bad. Okay, she said, and then when you was watching the documentary, it kind of went in tandem with the movie. So in the movie, she gets up, hears Kevin on the phone whispering with some bitch. Okay, and he tells her that, it's nothing, but they hadn't had sex in a year. She was like, excuse me, I was trying to have your fucking baby. All right. And he was just like, yeah, but it's nothing. I'm going to end it. I promise, all of this. She finally tells him, if you cheat again, I'm out. All right. But she knew that she just needed to get back to New York. They're in Philly now, but she needs to get back to New York. Like they can just get a fresh new start getting back there. So she ends up talking to her old program director, I guess, from Vinny. The guy's name was Vinny. Contacts him and says that she wants to come back to New York, and he offers her, he tells her he'll call her tomorrow with an offer. But she goes home. Now, isn't this something? Because she told us this in the documentary. She said that she went and talked to Vinny, but she never told Kevin that. She told him that he needed to contact Vinny so that she can get a job out there in New York. And she always let Kevin think that he was the one that got her that job back when she already had it. Okay, just feeding his ego, y'all. I said, listen to that. I mean, that reminded me of Soul Food. Remember when she was like, sometimes you gotta let the man be the man, honey. Okay, remember when she told Birdie that? Okay, well, honey, that was a good example. Wendy was just like, I just let him think he did it, but he really didn't. So anyway, they back in New York. She said things was going really good. She had her husband, she had her kid, she had her show. Of course, her show was doing very, very well. She had her money. She was Wendy Williams. She wrote a book about her life, you know, even included the affair that Kevin had. He was okay with that, you know, and it became a New York Times bestseller. But we start to see that Kevin is starting to look like he's, you know, his slip is hanging again. You know, y'all saw when she was talking to Charlemagne at the club, like, who is that he talking to over there? And everybody was like, oh, I know she didn't do Charlemagne like that. I said, you guys forgot how, you know, crunchy Charlemagne was back in the day. Like, that nigga definitely, like, he went to the dermatologist. He went and got him some grown man clothes. He got on some sort of spiritual level. Okay. He went and got his physique together. All right. He went and got him a woman. He leveled up. But y'all remember the Charlemagne from back then? Go back then and look at some of them pictures of Charlemagne. He was crunchy, just like this man was in the movie. I mean, just ratty looking. Didn't he look a mess, child? But that's how Charlemagne used to be. Okay, so when everybody was like, not Charlemagne, I was like, yes, Charlemagne. Kevin was starting to be out there a little bit, and I think that Wendy knew that. So she started to not trust him again. You know, his phone would be ringing, he wouldn't answer it and shit. And, you know, she was just like, what's that about? Like, answer the fucking phone. Okay, because she just knew it was probably one of his bitches. But actually, in one time when the phone was ringing off the hook, it turns out that she was being offered a TV show, you know. And he was just sort of like kind of brushing it off. And she was like, are you crazy? Like, TV is the ultimate end goal. And he was like, oh, they just saying that because you had like that little test with Monique. I don't even remember that. But evidently, she was going to be on a talk show. I don't know if it was with Monique or whatever, but anyway, that didn't pan out. He said she gonna get her own damn show or they ain't gonna give her nothing. Okay, so at least Kevin's persistence in her getting her own show seemed to pay off, because next thing you know, she said she got approved for a show, 30 shows, 5 days a week. I remember talking about this on Top of the Blogs years and years and years ago when, you know, Wendy was just having a hard time, like, really getting good people on her show because nobody wanted to come on. Okay, that, like I said, she had burned a lot of bridges. So how she gonna have a show and she don't really have none? So then that's when her and Kevin got together and decided, you know, we gonna make it about the fans. We gonna make it about the people that really supported us. So that's why Wendy has always involved her audience and, you know, the how you doing? And them, you know, saying it back and them participating and woo-wooing and all of that, because she had to somehow make it entertaining and bring people in. Okay, so very, very smart. I'm telling you, Wendy and Kevin, even though Kevin was with his shit, he was smart and he helped her in a lot of ways. She came up with hot topics, and that was like just a basically dish the dirt segment in her TV show. And you know, that was what, you know, people got that little part again of Wendy where she's just kind of talking about people and, you know, the things that we act like we don't want to hear but we love to hear. In the documentary though, when she was talking about Omarosa, was just like, I remember that interview as well. That Omarosa is such a bitch. Where is she, you guys? Does anybody know where that bitch is? Has she crawled out from the rock that she was under after she got put out from the White House? Okay, you know that bitch was fucking a white sap. Anybody that feels like she can go in his personal space of the White House and be telling them something when Melania is up in there and everything, yeah, she was definitely fucking white sap. All right. Anyway, they put her ass out with the quickness, huh? Okay, we ain't heard from old girl ever since. Yeah, she was just nasty. And Wendy, you know, of course, took control of that interview. But anyway, all of this that she did incorporate on the show, it ended up getting her 2 more seasons. All right, so the ball was really rolling. Things was definitely good. All right, at least as far as her show was concerned. Her marriage was falling apart because Kevin and her are fighting at work. The staff is uncomfortable. Okay, I remember again talking about on one of my top of the blogs about him like really, really menacing one of her employees. I think that they were having an affair, and then when they got to the TV show, the girl was actually suing for like mental stress and all kind of things. And you know, Kevin had started to bully her, and you know, it was threatening her, and she had like a full nervous breakdown and all of this. All right, we didn't get that in the movie, but we just got like the fact that the staff was uncomfortable, the fact that her and Kevin was fighting there. You know, they would be having meetings and the nigga would show up late with the fucking dark glasses on. She was just like, who the fuck wears dark glasses at night? Okay, Usher. That motherfucker always have on dark glasses. They did show a scene where he come in there with a gift, you know, a watch, and she was just like, oh, another sports watch. Like, thank you. Okay, he throws it on the table, and she said it cracked her table. In the documentary, she said that it cracked her table. Okay, but like, that was the example of like just the shit that everybody had to go through, and evidently it was really bad. Like, nobody really talked to Wendy when Kevin was around. Like, that he was definitely like this this omnipresent like man that just really was over everybody's shoulder and just kind of putting a dark shadow on like the staff and like everything. Okay, I mean, I guess he was cracking the whip as far as he was concerned, but it lent for a very stressful, intense work situation. It got to the point where I thought that Wendy was cheating. That guy, whoever that Ryan guy was that came into her office and she was fixing him a drink and everything, I said, Wendy, you ain't fixing to be now. Come on now. Don't do it at work if that's what you're gonna do. But it turns out that actually she was just trying to cozy up to him to find out what he knew about, you know, what Kevin was doing. Kevin was in Miami. Okay, and she was like, yeah, she know it's some bitch. All right. Do they have a condo down there? And Ryan was like, nah, Wendy. They actually got a house, all right, that's right around the corner, like, you know, not too far away from you guys' house now, you know, and he be there with her. She walk around like she owned the place. He have all his friends come over there, and she was just like, bitch, what? She said that she knows that people thought that she knew, but she did not know. She said that she thought that he had a condo, and that's where he would hang out with his boys, because they would be doing, you know, they smoke weed and they doing all they shit that they do. And she's like, don't bring that ghetto ass bullshit up to my house around my kid and all of that. Y'all do that shit over there. So that was kind of where she was with it. You know, maybe just turned a blind eye. Like, I can't even, like, he already get on her nerves. And so now she you know, she got to just deal with it the best way that she can. But no, he got a house with a woman. She was like, where's the house, Ryan? Okay, you take me to the house. So he takes her to the house, and, you know, I was like, it don't matter how much money you got. It don't matter how big a name you are. Okay, these niggas will reduce us to walking around and sneaking on their property and looking through windows and shit to see what bitch they fucking. And Wendy is no different. She's looking through, she see pools, she see it's real nice in there. Okay, she get her damn spray paint and she put Kevin and Wendy forever on the garage. Okay, hot pink spray paint. And how about this nigga tried to gaslight her and make it seem like it was her fault? Like, are you pleased with what you did? You know, you lucky you didn't get arrested. Okay, and one of my neighbors told me they saw you, blah, 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 blah. I was just like, but Negro, the whole thing is you in there with a woman. Okay, of course he trying to make her feel like it's all on her. So Wendy is now in between a rock and a hard space, because I guess because of her upbringing, her parents were together. It was very important for her to keep the family nucleus together no matter what. Okay, she said that her son had 2 more years before he went to college, so she was just gonna have to deal with it. All right, and so she knew about this affair that he had been having at least 2 years before the son went off to college. Wendy starts drinking really heavily. I mean, she was like, who else wouldn't be drinking if you knew that your husband had, you know, was out there with another woman in a whole nother house and all of that. So I guess it was like this unspoken arrangement where Kevin was going between Wendy's house and Sharina, you know, his house with Sharina that he bought with Wendy's fucking, we already knew the story, but just again, when you see that shit on TV, it's just sort of like, this motherfucker got a low bunch of nerve. Okay? Yes, he's her manager and he has his own salary and all of that, but still, we know that he wouldn't have had none of that hadn't it been for Wendy. We see this breakdown on Halloween when she passes out. Now, we never really fully get an understanding of why that pass out happened. You know, she's a Statue of Liberty. She's up at the podium. She's talking and the words are coming out mixed up. And then, you know, she kind of looks panicked and then she backs up and falls out. But we don't really get the understanding of what happened. In the documentary, she said that she passed out. She said Kevin came and scooped her up and told her, you know, gave her the cheer on, like, you can do this, you know, go back out there. And so she did close out the show. But I think everybody knew at that time, like, oh, something is really wrong. Really, really wrong with Wendy. Kevin starts to tell her that she needs help. Maybe it's time for you to take a little break from the show. You know, do it for our son. He starts to really make it seem, like I said, he just gaslighting her throughout this whole time. Like everything is like, you need to do this because you doing this. Like, never ever once addressing the fact that the woman is trying to cope with the fact that you fucking somebody else down the street. And definitely have a whole relationship. This ain't just we just messing around. Y'all got a house. But because he had then made her feel like that, she ends up going to rehab. All right. And this, I guess, lines up with the time with when Daily Mail, because I remember I was glued to that Daily Mail article. Daily Mail every day would put out a little bit more about that whole relation. I mean, they did a whole huge expose about Kevin and that girl Sharina Hudson. And honey, they had pictures of that they was following her, following him, and all of this. In the documentary, she said that, you know, she felt like that Daily Mail did an excellent job, but she already knew, you guys, she had already hired a private eye. Okay, so she knew that he was out there hoeing around and everything, but like I said, she was just grinning and bearing it. Okay, but then when Daily Mail exposed it, and now that's on a whole nother level. You know, like I said, they had everything. Some people will say that they still feel like Wendy's team was the one who actually leaked it to Daily Mail, because they had everything, and they had like pictures that would have come from like a private eye or something like that. So, you know, I still kind of feel like Wendy had something to do with exposing that. So while she's in rehab, you know, she sees that all this is going down, supposedly. She also finds out that the girl is pregnant. Now, I think that that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because we know Wendy's history of having miscarriages. One of the 5-month baby births that she had was a little girl, and Sharina's pregnant, you know. So now it's one thing to know your man's fucking around, but you taking care of a whole family now? A baby too? So she was just like, no, I'm leaving the fuck out of this rehab. I'm getting my show back. Okay, I'm gonna do what I have to do. We not running nothing into the dirt because you out here with your proclivities. So she goes back to New York. She goes back to her show. You know, she tells them about the sober house. And really, she didn't even seem to want to be in that sober house. That still was something that Kevin had put her up to. Okay, so when she would leave the show, like she told us, she would go to the sober house, but she was like, them motherfuckers was like almost like Nazi. Like they was always on her, always talking to her. You could tell that she didn't want to be there. Okay, but I think it was all a part of the plan. Like Wendy, when you watch it, even though she didn't say it in the movie, like when you watch it, you know that she was plotting. Okay, she had to get up from under Kevin, who was so super controlling and so involved in all of her affairs. So then I remember the story when they had told us that Wendy was missing for a little while from the sober house and they didn't know what happened. Well, it turns out that she left because she went to have a meeting with her team. Okay, we about to get a divorce, but we need to get our money in order, and we need to make sure that we get Kevin off of the fucking show 100%. Okay, now Kevin thinking that she breaking down at the sober house, and sis is over here planning her shit. Okay, so big ups for Wendy for that. And that's why in the movie Wendy is just so pissed, because I think the fact that in the documentary, I think the fact that she loved and trusted him so much, even when he was still fucking around, like she still really trusted him with her life, meaning her career, okay, and her money and all of that. For him to do what he was doing, like it was just like an ultimate stab in the back. So, you know, they say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right? Okay, so Wendy is pissed, and she finally getting her head straight and really kind of knowing what she wants to do next. And, you know, this divorce is the first order of business. So, yeah, she's back at the sober house and everything, but she's about to leave that shit, too. Kevin comes down there to visit her, and, you know, she was just like, yeah, so you with the old girl. Y'all just had a fucking baby. Is it a girl or a boy? He said it's a girl. I'm sure that had to stab her in the heart somewhere. And then, of course, he tried to turn it around on her, too. Like, don't act like you happy. You ain't been happy either. Yeah, but she's still trying to stick it out with your monkey ass. You the one still trying to... Who tries to entertain 2 whole families like this? You know, so he just got way too big for his britches. And Wendy finally had to say, listen, nigga, I am fixing to divorce you, and you better get a fucking lawyer. Okay, because I'm the one that puts food on your damn table. I'm sure you don't want your new family to starve. Okay, so I'm just giving you the fair warning now. All right. So she tells him she's getting a divorce from him. She goes back to her staff and she tells them that, you know, Kevin is off the show for good. You know, at first the staff don't really know how to react. Okay, nigga better not celebrate too much because he might just come back. But she was like, no, he's not coming back. It's just me. You know, we gonna have a good time around here and all of that. And people began to loosen up and feel like, okay, finally, like the cloak of despair and doom is gone, because Kevin has finally been cut away, you know, in his power that he had. And a lot of his power, most of his power came from Wendy's money. So, you know, that's that. And they didn't get into the divorce settlement and what she had to give him and whatever he walked away with. From as far as I know, he's still with the Sharina girl. Yeah, he is, because she talks about him on the show. But yeah, you guys, I think they did a great job. Usually I don't like to see biopics when the person is still alive and still, you know, fairly young. I mean, Wendy's not old, so she still has a lot left to live in her life, and it's just sort of like, oh, so we're gonna get a biopic, but your story's not over. But this was a big enough story in Wendy's life that we needed to know. And honey, that documentary just was the icing on the cake. Just the icing on the cake, because that shit was so raw. I'm talking about, honey, them ugly face cryings, just Wendy laying there with her she has lymphedema, and the only reason why I know what lymphedema is because my girlfriend Evelyn, you guys remember when I did that interview for the breast cancer foundation that my friend has? You also get lymphedema in your arms when you have breast cancer, and you get some of your lymph nodes removed under your arm swells. So she actually gives away lymphedema sleeves. And so I never knew that that's what Wendy Williams had. I knew her legs were always like big, like tree trunkish, but I never knew exactly that was like a for real situation that she had. So she has these sleeves that she wears on her legs. She has to do, I think she says 2 hours a day. But, you know, her in that house, I think Wendy is bitter though, you know, just kind of the nerve. I'm Wendy Williams and he still would do something like this. But I think that she is over him. I think that she's just so pissed that he did that you know, the emotions was raw then. Today, she probably still pissed about it, but you know, what can you do? I mean, she's now to the point where she can kind of laugh, honey, let me tell you, kind of, you know, response now. But back then, with honey, that documentary was fresh, okay? And but she told the story, and I guess when you are really trying to control the narrative, the best way to get the story out there is to just tell it. So I appreciated Wendy for that. Like, I feel like that's the most open we've ever seen Wendy be about her life, okay? And even they talked about on the documentary how hard it was for her to, you know, be on a show and have to talk about people and then avoid talking about her own life on the show. So I think that's why now Wendy now opens up, because fuck, she's a hot topic. She is her own hot topic. When you get to the spot that Wendy is in her life, I guess it don't really matter. Like, Wendy got her money, Wendy got her fame, Wendy got what she needs. And so, you know, she want to spill her own tea, then she's welcome to do that. But yeah, it was good, you guys. The documentary was well done. And like I said, it worked in tandem with the movie. So just a little bit more clarification, or just a little bit more in depth about the story, they was able to kind of address in the documentary. So I just was like, yeah, you did that. You did that. Okay. Very, very good, Wendy. I was proud of her. Okay. And I know a lot of people don't like her. I think that this movie did humanize her. At least if you didn't like her, you know why Wendy is what she is today. Okay. And you know, because we are just a sum of our experiences, you guys. The things that we've been through is who we are. That's how we end up being the person that we are. And so sometimes when you can see the building blocks of how a person gets there, it's cool to see. And she's still evolving. So there'll be more to her story, but we, you know, we got a good part of it last night. But anyway, did you guys really enjoy the show? Enjoy the movie, enjoy the documentary. Y'all let me know what you thought about everything in the comments below. All right, you guys, let me get on up off of y'all. Get on here, edit this, and give it to you guys, and get on with my day. Make sure that you rate, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm itsrox. The channel is itsrox. Everything else I do will be in the bottom bar. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Till next time, Roxstars. Bye.